So it's a typical bank holiday, raining, wet day, so I've decided to do more filming. Okay, so we've got our subject on the table, got the camera set up. I'm going to show now some of the display options. So the north position on the command wheel, there's a DISP label. So if you press that, what you can see is a histogram in the bottom right hand corner. The histogram tells you the distribution of light and dark tones in your image. So the left hand side are the dark tones and the right hand side are the white tones. So you can see that predominantly this image is a lot of black in the image, so that's why it's approaching the left hand side. The next thing to show is the artificial sort of spirit level. So it rotates from portrait to landscape, and the idea is when it goes green, then the idea is that it is level. I tried to do this with two hands there, so that's the idea. So when it's green, you know it's level. So it probably is more useful for buildings or any sort of architecture or any image that has lots of straight lines in it. So one more press and we get a kind of help feature that has two sort of parallel strips. Okay, we have three characters in this image, and they're all quite sharply focused at the moment. So let's run through these two displays here. So the top display is about the shutter speed. So the top display has a man standing and a man running, or a person standing and a person running, I should say. So adjusting that shutter speed value isn't possible because I'm in aperture priority mode. So if I move into manual mode, if I wanted to change the shutter speed value, it would be a case of moving the command dial. So I'm increasing the shutter speed value towards the running man. So I don't know if you can see that sort of orange bar moving towards the running man. Now it's right at the end, and as you can see, the image is completely black on the screen. That's because I'm letting little light in, because the shutter speed is so quick now. It's letting less light in, so it's 1/1600th of a second. So the further left I move, the slower the shutter speed. So that's on 1/125th of a second. Still too dark. Okay, so let's leave it on 1/40th of a second. The image of the wizards is barely visible. Now next I'm going to change the aperture value. So the bottom indicator there is the aperture value, and it has a sort of a landscape and a person icon on the right hand side, and the same on the left hand side, but there's a sort of, the person is white and the landscape is grey, so indicating that the landscape is blurred out. So if you want to have a shot with your background is blurred, it's got a wider aperture, so 3.5 is wider than 8 on the right hand side. So what we're going to do is we're going to move the bar for the aperture. We're going to open the aperture, so it's at f7.1 at the moment. Now if I open that aperture up, okay, so it's at this particular zoom, it's only giving me an aperture of 6.3. That's the widest I can get from the looks of it. Yeah. So I can go up to 8 or down to or down to 6.3. But as you can see, the metered manual indicator is flashing -2, so that's definitely going to be underexposed, and you can see that on the panel itself. So I'm going to have to adjust the shutter speed value, and with the shutter speed value, in order to let more light into the camera, I'm going to have to move it to the left hand position. So I'm going to scroll to the left. Okay, so that I'm watching that metered manual value until it gets to the 0. Okay, so at this particular shot, the widest aperture I can get is f6.3, and I don't think you'll be able to tell whether the other wizards are blurred or not. I think it's just having difficulty finding a focus point here. Okay, there we go. Don't think I've got the self-timer set, so I'm just going to turn the self-timer drive mode on. I'm going to change that to 10 seconds because I don't want to introduce any camera shake, and when I've been shooting before, not all of the images are clear because I think when I've pressed the shutter button there's still been a bit of tremble. Okay, so this display mode, it tells you the allows you to set the aperture and the shutter speed values so that you get a well exposed image, but it also helps you by giving you some guidance as to whether you want to freeze the action, which is the running man icon. So if you were going for a shot with moving subjects, you could increase the shutter value, and if you want to blur the background, you can use the bottom scale to help act as a reminder that you need to open the aperture if you want to blur the background. As I said, in this particular scene, I think the images, the subjects are a bit too close together, so I'm going to try this again, but with a different distance between the subjects. So just one more thing to say about this display here. Yeah, as you can see, if I zoom in, you'll see that the aperture range from, it says on the display 3.5 to f8, you'll see that move when I change the focal length by zooming in. You'll see that aperture value, that widest aperture value increases. So let's just zoom in. So there you go, so it starts to move towards the sort of higher end of the scale. That means that the aperture value, the widest aperture values, no longer become available to me. You know, the aperture value that I can set are between f6.3 and f8. The last of the display settings, I think. So just looking at the information on the screen with this final setting, you can see lots of icons on the screen. I find the information is fine. It's giving me all of the information about the image, but it's you know, it's quite a cluttered screen. So I think in normal use, I prefer just that information. It gives me the sort of vital information in the bottom, and if I want to change any of the settings, I can use the quick function button.